You guys looking at books in the back? Come on up and join the meeting, please.
Okay.
Okay. So this is our August meeting, and we got a great clinic today being put on by David Steckler, which I thought I saw him here. David? Okay, he's going to be doing how to simulate dirty engine terminal tracks. Yeah, how to simulate that. Now, we got a number of announcements we need to make before we get on to the clinic. So let me start with, I'd like to thank David Crumpton and the Texas Western for letting us have our meetings here. And David, do you have any announcements?
You're cutting in and out.
Okay.
All right, welcome. Anybody here for the first time?
Do I need to get
For
this?
old hands, okay, good. We're glad to have you here. This is the Texas Western Model Railroad Club, and we have memberships available. So if anybody is interested, please see Mr. Jay Waters, and he'll give you the paperwork and get you started. The books on the table are priced to sell like hotcakes. So don't walk out of here today without a book. Look around. If there's anything you can't live without, C.J. Waters, he will take your money or your credit card right over there at that table by the books. Yes, sir?
Selling like hotcakes?
Selling like hotcakes.
Do you have syrup?
No, that's extra.
Somebody already bought the syrup.
Somebody bought the syrup. Also, the wood that's on the table is left over from a project that I did with my son the last couple of weeks. That is 3/4 birch plywood, cabinet grade. I think there's a piece of 1/2 inch in there also. So it's free. So if you need some wood for some project at home or whatever, it's free. Please take it. Otherwise, it's going to go into the dumpster at the end of the day. The shay over here against the wall, we have flyers on top of that shay. If you're interested or know somebody that is interested in it, please take a flyer. If you have questions, want some detail, please see Darrell Cowles. He's the coordinator for getting that little baby sold. So see him. Also, somebody was telling me just a few minutes ago about a garden railroad. Who was that?
Backyard railroad.
Backyard railroad. On YouTube, if you're interested in backyard railroading, there is a site that you can search called Backyard Railroading, and that will take you there, and you can see things like a shay of this size and other stuff. So anyway, that's all I've got, Dick.
Okay, David, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Can you guys hear me in the back now? Okay, good. Do we have any new members or guests with us today? Tim, why don't you stand up, please? Why don't you introduce yourself, tell everybody about what you model in, and just a little bit about your layout.
My name's Tim Meyer. I have an HO scale layout. I'm new here. My name's Tim Meyer. I have an HO scale layout. Did an addition to our house a few years back. We made room for a layout, and Dick has helped work on it and wire it. And I'm not a real, hate to say this, prototypical period time. If there's things I like, I put it on there, and if I don't like it, I don't put it. It's kind of my own little world. And but I've been working on it for a few years and kind of lost my motivation. So I'm coming here to get some ideas and get motivated again and get working on it. So, and I've lived in this area most of my life and got into trains, and we went to the state fair when I was a kid, about 8 years old. They had a couple of model train layouts, and I've been into it ever since. But anyway, I appreciate you letting me be here, and
Well, welcome, Tim, and thank you for coming, and hopefully you'll enjoy the meeting and come back for future meetings. Okay, so now, do we have, let's welcome our new members, or our members on Zoom that are attending the meeting. And we have Mike Mackey, correct?
I see him.
Hello, Mike.
There he is.
And Bruce from Arizona, and Bob Magrum. Magnum. Bob has graciously accepted the editor position of the Whistle, so he will be taking over in the coming months. And then we have Betty Mitchell attending too. So welcome, you guys. Okay. Next thing I want to do is Russell put on the clinic last month on MagnaRail. And Russell, would you stand up for a second? And thank you very much for the great clinic, and hope to have some more from you in the future.
Well, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Whatever you do, we want to play on Thursday.
That'll be the encore performance, right? Okay, and David Grimes, Treasury Report. David is not still on vacation, but I do have the information. The July 1st balance was $2,553.40. We had no deposits. He made a withdrawal of $55.99, and the new balance is $23.97.41. And that information is in the Whistle.
So you're saying the guy with the money is on
Vacation, yes. And he's in Portugal. He was in Portugal, and now he's going to Michigan. So,
Yeah.
you know, he may be hard to find in Michigan.
Yeah, looking for those non-extradition countries? Yeah.
Okay, and as most
Hey,
of you
Dick.
already know, 4014 is going to be coming.
Mackey's, want to ask a question?
Dick,
Yeah,
is there any correlation to the new deposits and the fact that David is starting to travel more? I'm just curious.
no, there's no correlation whatsoever. No one was able to get to the bank last month. So the petty cash from the refreshments is sitting with Jim Davis right now. Okay, so 4014 is coming in October, and it'll be here in Fort Worth from October 10th through the 12th, and those dates are somewhat tentative, but the Cowcatcher division is going to be involved in the visit. Mike Mackey is looking for volunteers to assist, and if you're interested, please email him at the following address: MikeMackey_Texas@sbcglobal.net. Do not send it to Director of Cowcatcher Division, because he doesn't get mail at that address. Someone else you know gets mail at that address.
Dick,
Yeah. You want to talk about that for a second, Mike?
and briefly, first off, the email is TX, not Texas. Don't
Okay,
spell
thank
it
you for
out.
the correction.
And I will tell you guys that it has already been broached that our circumstances last time, which were less than desirable, will not be the circumstances that will be this time. And there were promises made the last time that were not upheld. That was in the after action report that I went with and gave Union Pacific. They are aware of that. We had horrible heat in August last trip. This time it's in October. And they have assured us that the bad circumstances that we had last time will be addressed and not be the same, not be repeated this time. So if you were a member of the last experience and it was not as we hoped it would be, don't be hesitant to try it again, because they've already been aware and they're trying to make things better for us. So just to let you know.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
We got one question, Mike. Steve?
Sure.
Is that, what experience you're talking about, the 4014 or the company picnic we had volunteered for? Can't hear.
Dick, would you repeat the question? Because I couldn't hear it. It wasn't mic'd up.
Steve was asking, is the bad experience you were talking about was for the last visit of 4014, not for the company picnic that was a year ago. Is that correct?
The company picnic, I thought went extremely well. The bad experience was when 4014 visited, and it was just a disaster on wheels, literally. So it was just unfortunate. But and by the way, this does count as volunteer hours towards your AP certificate. So if you're looking to pick up some hours, this is good.
Okay, Mike, we got another question.
Sure.
Microphone, use the microphone.
Yeah, so Mike can hear you.
What type of things might one volunteer for? I don't have a clue. Well, I mean, if you were gonna volunteer, what do you volunteer to do? Just to
So
bring-
there's going to be two different events. One event is the arrival of the locomotive on Thursday evening. Then that is put on with the Heritage Group, and it's basically just crowd control. Friday is a viewing and by the general public, and we would be doing crowd control for that. And then Saturday is put on by the Texoma Service Division. That is managed by the same folks that did the Family Days, and it is in fact a repeat of Family Days, but it's only for employees and their families. And I will tell you right now that security on Family Days is going to be a lockdown. I've already attended a pre-planning meeting already. And if you're a volunteer and you're not there on time and ahead of time, then there will be no admittance. Once the volunteers are inside the perimeter, then the only people that get in are Union Pacific employees with their families at the same time, having a UP employee identification. The police has been informed that there will be no other admittance whatsoever onto the Union Pacific property. So that's what you're doing. But Family Days is helping with crowd control and parking and things like that for Family Days. And for those of you who participated in Family Days last time, that was just a delightful thing. Food was provided, plenty of shade, plenty of relief, plenty of rest breaks, this, that, and the other. We helped set up tables and tear down tables, and basically that was about the extent of our work. The rest of the time we were just walking around enjoying the activities, and we will be having the opportunity, we will be having the opportunity to tour the train, the historical car, and be up close and personal with 4014 on Family Days for those who participate in that. It's the information that we're trying to work out right now is what our benefits are going to be for 4014, and it's probably going to be, a T-shirt and a photograph with the locomotive and private tour of the train, et cetera, that kind of stuff. So that was denied us last time, and much to the dismay of everybody. But that's already been addressed, and they had some other trinkets that they gave us. I think some people got a thermal cup for the 4014 visit. I know there was all kinds of swag that were given out during Family Days, T-shirts, phone holders, various and sundry other things, and they're going to repeat that as well. So you're walking away with some Union Pacific stuff if that has meaning for you. But the main thing is we probably need for Family Days about 30 people for Family Days. For 4014, we probably need about 45 to 50 for family.
One thing about 4014 too, last year, or the last time.
4014, yeah.
Was a
4014, we need probably.
Recruiting effort.
Yeah, and that doesn't count the NMRA booth, Dick. You're right.
Question. Microphone. Microphone.
I'm just kidding. What's the location going to be? Because last year, when I was here before, it's going to be way on the east side of everything.
I think those details are yet to be worked out, but it may be Davison Yard. I don't know, but we'll get that information to you. Mike, thank you very much for the update. Okay.
Thanks, Dick.
So the other thing with 4014 coming, it'll be here the second week of the month. So we need to move our meeting, our October meeting, from to October 5th. And that October 5th meeting will be the start of our Speeder Shed Clinic. So that's coming up pretty fast, and it's important that you get with Jim Ogden. Jim, raise your hand. And sign up for the Speeder Shed Clinic and pay your money for the Speeder Shed. And we'll get you on the list so that we can get the parts made and have them ready for the October 5th meeting of the Cowcatcher Division. Okay, any questions on that? Please mark your calendars because, you know, we want everybody to show up for the clinic at the proper time. Yes, another question.
Where's the mic?
Your left.
Right here, right here.
Okay, yeah.
I just want to say I participated in the So Analyzed disaster when the 4014 was here before. It was wet. There were lots of confused people around, and I still enjoyed it the whole day.
So it's almost guaranteed to be a good time, right? Okay, so before we go any further, I saw a relatively new member show up. So Dan, you want to stand up and introduce your son?
Hello, I'm Chris. Been an NMRA member for a couple years now. We are building an HO scale layout of the Fort Worth area in and around. And my son, Christopher, say hello.
Hello, my name is Christopher.
Tell him what you like, your favorite locomotive company.
My favorite company is Norfolk Southern. And my favorite locomotive is ES44 DC.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Chris. Chris Mahan. Oh, yeah, is there another question?
Yeah, right here.
Hey, when did you sign up for the 4014 stuff?
Okay, you email Mike Mackey _TX.
No, TX first.
No, it's after.
No, it's after.
Yeah.
It's after.
Sorry,
Mike
you're
Mackey,
right,
Spark
sorry.
TX.
Write it down somewhere and we can look at it.
If you're on Discord, you can look up Mike Mackey.
Yeah, we'll get something on the screen so you can get it written down. Okay. So
That's
we'll
all
get.
I had.
I'll bring you the mic with you.
Yeah, sure.
Morning, everybody. Project Pay It Forward is on track. The locomotive we've designated for the layout was run on it last month. Ran like a bat out of hell. And the layout has now been divided into its 4 sections. The 2 sections that will be landscaped and structures added are being worked on by Russ and Deb Giffer and other people. And we will have it back here for the September meeting so everybody can see what it'll be, and then we'll take it to the Plano Train Show. During the train show, we're going to be needing some help. We're going to be needing some people to take money for raffle tickets. We're going to be building some structures. We're going to be holding some mini clinics on making pine trees, things that will be very simple for new modelers to get involved with. Our whole goal here is to interest young families and new modelers in the hobby who come to the show. So we're looking forward to all your guys' support, and you'll get a chance to see it in September. If you have any questions, please see me. Are there any questions? Oh, good, I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Jim Ogden, you want to update everybody on the Make and Take Clinic?
Okay, we're going to be doing a baking cake clinic in October, November.
It's on, okay.
See where the microphone is. Okay, I'm over here getting money and getting people to sign up. We've got a clinic we're going to be doing with Dwayne on constructing a speeder shed. They're going to be available in HO, in N, and thank you, and S. And O scale. And of course, like I said, I've been, a number of you signed up for it. I have the sheet of paper over here. I am collecting money right now. It'll be in the October meeting and the November meeting. December meeting is going to be the Christmas party. So we're not going to be doing it at the building with this, but again, come see me about that. And again, we had very good responses out of the previous building clinics that we had. Yes. I thought I saw a hand raised back there, but anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Okay. What, Eric?
No, I was gonna say that Mike Mackey's email address is easy to find.
Okay, we got it. We got it right here. We got it right here.
You can get it off of Discord.
You can get it off of Discord too. You want to put that up again?
Yep.
David? Okay, here's the address. Okay, is everybody got a picture of it? Okay, good. A couple announcements coming up. We've got the Austin Train Show coming up on August 24th and 25th. It's at the Palmer Event Center. We also have the Plano Train Show coming up on the 28th and 29th at the Plano Event Center. Please mark your calendars for that. And don't forget the Red River RPM meet coming up on October 25th and 26th at Forest Hills. And most importantly, we have the 2025 NMRA LSR convention coming up. Where is Joe? You want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So as Dick said, we've got our next LSR convention coming up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, June 26th through 28th. Chuck Lind, our former LSR regional president and current advisor, has put together a fantastic clinic schedule. We have clinicians from 3 different NMRA regions, so we're going to get some fresh people, some fresh ideas. Included in that schedule is somebody that we had planned for our recent NMRA National Convention that had the most expensive make and take clinic that sold out very quickly. I expect his clinic to be standing room only, as well as a bunch of other great clinicians. So looking forward to that. I expect to see in the upcoming edition of the Marker Lamp information about the special entry for the contest room. It's going to involve a couple of little details, but a lot of room for creativity and imagination. So be looking for that. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Baton Rouge, it is outrageously rich in history. So if you have any interest in history, whether it be the Civil War or railroads or whatever, it's a fantastic place to visit. So looking forward to seeing the website and registration coming soon. Please make sure to set the dates aside, June 26th through 28th, and I will look forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Now, one more announcement coming up on the for the Plano Train Show. Russell is our coordinator of that, and he's looking for volunteers. Russell, you want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. Keeping things on the spirit of being volunteering, this the Plano Train Show, it's Division One's turn to put the show on. So there's a lot of things to do. On Friday, we'll be setting up. Always need help setting up. That'll be around noon, 1 o'clock on a Friday. Then Saturday, we'll have booth positions for bottling. We'll have booth positions for
Signups. We'll have some clinics we'll be doing it there, so there's a lot to do. Come see me. I have the sign-up sheet on my phone. What I do when you volunteer, when I get the list of people this meeting, I will be emailing out who's all volunteered. But it's an opportunity for Division I to show and have a great show there because a lot of people look up to us to put on a really good show. We always have. Plus, we're going to be having the pay it forward module there too. So there's going to be a lot of activity around the booth and an opportunity for Division I to really shine in the area for Apollo Railroad. If you have any questions, please come see me and we'll get you on the list.
Yeah, it's very important that we have a good showing for this show and that everybody shows up at their appointed time and does their appointed job. We've had some issues with that not occurring in the last couple of years that kind of got us into trouble. I mean, we just didn't have a good showing. So I want to make sure we have a much better, strong showing this year. So get with Russell and he'll get you signed up. Okay, now let's. Okay, so now we're going to move into some announcements and stuff. And Mike, we're going to have divisional AP announcements. Mike, and you want to give an update on the NMRA convention too?
Last month, and you're going to see the results of it here in a few minutes. Is Dwayne in the room?
Yes, he is.
Perfect. Dwayne, you want to come on up? Oh, I didn't realize where you were, buddy. Dwayne and I worked really hard last month to let the division really shine, and I'm thrilled with the participation. I've been applauded by the national AP manager based off of because I'm the one here, not because it was me doing anything. But he came up, he goes, man, the Lone Star region was just amazing last month. It was the leading region nationally for AP awards. And it was the torchbearer of the whole thing was Division I. Dwayne's going to go over that in just a minute. But you guys did an awesome job. I'm just beyond thrilled over what you guys accomplished. There are several of you, and I know that we're working on other certificates. Dwayne's got a list. I'm sure he's going to run through some names here in a few minutes of people that we're looking to go ahead and turn some more certificates in to accomplish and finish out more certs. I think Dwayne, you received Ed McGinley's one of his certs overnight. I think he told me he was submitting it to you. So there are several of you that I really hope that we're doing moving forward and getting that stuff done. Jim Ogden, you owe me some certs. You know it. I'm not going to call you out in front of everybody. Wait a minute, I just did that. Anyway, at this point, I'll turn it over to Dwayne, and then when Dwayne gets through wrapping that up, then I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on out here at the National Convention.
Yeah, as Mike mentioned, we had a kind of a banner month. It wasn't a record for the LSR. Believe it or not, at one point back at around 1982, there were close to 40 submissions in a single month. We had 21 just this last month. The bulk of them, as Mike mentioned, were from right here in D1. But for me personally, since I took over the AP 11 years ago, this is the most I've ever had in a single month by more than double. So it was a great month. We've got a big stack here to give away, so you might want to wish they'd have done this after the break, but let's get things rolling. We had 5 golden spikes to get started. For those of you not familiar with the golden spike, it is the gateway drug into the achievement program. It is one of those where if you have just a few just a little small display, even your standard 2 foot by 4 foot module will get you there. You need 8 square feet. It has to have just a handful of certain things in there to be displayed. You don't go through a full-on evaluation like you do when you're working on your other achievement program certificates, but you just have to be able to display to show that you've done the basic work. and you can achieve your golden spike. This is something that you can get at any time. Any work in the AP can be anything you built from the crib up till now. I've had people tell me I'm too old to get this and start all over again. My layout's done. And I'm like, what makes you think you have to start over? You don't have to. I solemnly swear I'm starting in the achievement program. I'm going to start building cars now. Click, and I hit the stopwatch and you go. This can be for anything you ever built. I mean, I've had guys bring stuff up. I built this back in '65 when I was in high school. Does it count? Yeah, it does. So at any rate, we're going to start this thing off. Cole Rash, I saw you walk in the door here a minute ago, front and center.
I have to get a picture.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're going to be busy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I brought this. Yeah. Fortunately, unfortunately, they take a good picture. Not a great one, but they take all right. Cole earned his golden spike and is soon to be turning in scenery.
Turn around and smile.
Mr. Pepper, you're next. I'm going to stand up against the wall and shoot you. We're going to give you the Castro or the Kim Jong-un or whoever's doing it these days. There you go.
Good job, Tom.
Got to get started on the rest of them now. Michael Walter.
Way to go, Mike.
Thank you. Congrats. Okay, we've got a couple more that we're going to give out as we get to them. Mr. Steckler. Mr. Steckler earned his author certificate. Thank you, sir. Mr. McGinley. Mr. McGinley got his chief dispatcher and his golden spike.
Oh, how do you like that?
Ed and I go back further than probably either one of us want to admit, but I will say that's a long time coming, brother. Greg McComas with us today. I haven't seen him come in.
I don't think he's here.
All right, we will send him. He got his electrical. Harold, I know you're here. I saw you earlier. Mr. Harold earned his scenery certificate. Yes, you do. Oh, sorry. You're correct, sir. Harold also turned in his golden spike as well.
All right, Harold, way to go.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Gradke. Mr. Gradke earned his volunteer. I would like to point something out too, and I've probably done this once or twice in the past. Volunteer is #1, the most given out certificate in the NMRA. And that speaks a lot to the generosity of y'all's time and effort and spirit to do this kind of stuff and give back to the hobby. And Mr. Gradke is definitely a shining example of that. Sir, congratulations. Mr. Atkins. Chris has gotten his civil. And how many does this give you now, sir? 5. So other than being here to get this, you can now leave and go home and work on those other 2. Congrats, man. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Mr. Gifford. Always the overachiever. He earned 3 this last month.
Jeez.
Scenery, volunteer, and structures.
I hate doing paperwork, so I just.
Yeah, so he saves it all up and then does it all
So
in batches.
Deborah did it all for you, right?
Yeah, a little less Mutt and Jeff, huh? Yeah, congrats. Okay, Mr. Cowles. Mr. Cowles has 4.
Whoa.
So we've been on Daryl now for, I don't know, ever to turn in paperwork. The bug has finally bit, and we're ever glad for it. Mr. Cowles earned scenery, chief dispatcher, official, and electrical.
Why don't you have a whole two?
Yeah, there we go.
That way you can kind of see it.
Congratulations, sir.
So Daryl, when did you start working on those?
About 4 months ago.
Yeah.
No, not the paperwork on the.
Hey, Dwayne,
A lot of this was done
Dwayne,
at the club.
don't let,
Yeah, and
no.
chief dispatcher when we were operating over there, and chief dispatcher over there, electrical over there and here. Association volunteer, I was director at large for a while, and scenery was the logging area.
Director at large is an official job.
That's how you got the official.
Thank you. Mike?
Mike, you had a question?
Don't let him go anywhere until he turns in the prototype modeler this month.
Yeah, I'm gonna take him over in the back and nail his foot to the floor.
Okay,
3 locomotives.
very good.
Excellent. All right. Went through that a little quicker than I thought we were going to, but last but not least, Dick Brannon.
All right.
Got his scenery.
That's a surprise.
How many were there altogether?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Good, nice, okay, got it.
yeah. We had 21 certificates total, 19 of them were from here in D1. So you guys, like I say, when I say the bulk of it came from here, almost all of it came from here. The other two, we had one gentleman down in Houston, Cliff Cheeseman, that earned a certificate for structures, I believe it was. And our friend down in Mexico City also received a certificate. He's now up to 3, I think this is. I'm hoping at some point that we might be able to get him to join us on a Zoom. His English is about as good as my Spanish, unfortunately. But his daughter was an English teacher down there, so she can do some translation for us. But I would love to see if we could get them on to give a little tour of his railroad. His bench work is metal and it's welded. You could, when you say you could park a truck on his bench work, on his you really can. But he's about an hour north of Mexico City.
That's still an earthquake.
Yeah, but his railroad is huge. I mean, it's a beast. So we're looking forward to getting him the rest of his certificates here coming up real soon. But as it stands right now, they don't have enough model railroaders for them to have their own region at this time. So we're processing all his paperwork through here. He's got a lot of friends here in Texas besides myself. Mr. Tom Crosswaite, MMR down in San Antonio, is a real good friend, and they come up and spend some time with him from time to time. So myself and him and the late Fred Bach have all been on him to get some of this stuff submitted. So we're happy to see some paperwork coming in. But at any rate, I do have, I got scenery here next month for Ken Kaiser that I'll be turning in. Mr. Ogden, I think you owe me some paperwork. Daryl's got some stuff for us to judge, so we may have some paperwork there. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had 6 or 7 that we didn't quite make it in on the deadline. I know Ed McGinley and I were trading emails at 2 o'clock in the morning on the deadline. I was still up trying to get my stupid computer to work and process paperwork. He's sending me stuff, and I'm like, this will work perfect. So, but if you can get your paperwork to me, I have to have it turned in by the 21st. So if you will get it to me by the 20th, actually I have to it turned in by the 20th. If you'll get it to me by the 19th, that would be helpful. If you're running really late, if you'll let me know, I'll keep an eye out for it and I'll get it submitted as well. We have a new national AP director. Frank Koch has stepped down and Ray has taken over. Ray Pershing has come in. He's up in the kind of the same part of the country. He's a Air Force officer, will be retiring here in another couple of years to be able to really devote some time to the hobby. But he is our new national AP chair, took over as of the 1st of July. And Ray's, at this point, he's going to be kind of processing paperwork as he gets it. So whenever you get it to me, I'll turn around and try to get it to national as soon as I can. But like I say, really to hit the deadline, I need it by the 19th if possible. So if you got any questions, hit me up. I'll be back here in the back and be happy to help out. It, as you've heard me say every month, it will make you a better modeler. I guarantee it. So,
Dwayne, do you want to go over
Thank you very much.
the change in AP ruling on structures real quick?
Yeah, there has been a change voted on for structures, and part of this has been born out of some of the necessities around just the way we live our lives now. Europe has been in this position for quite some time, and a lot of the younger crowd getting into the hobby are in apartments, and they don't have the space to put together a really large layout. And one of the things over the years that we've been asked about is for structures, what about flats? And it's like, well, it doesn't have all the walls. If you built it that way, it'd fall over, there's just certain things you can't do. So one of the things that they've allowed now, you're allowed up to 3 background buildings, not flats. They have to have at least 10 scale feet of relief. They must be super detailed. They will be part of the 3 that aren't judged, but have to be of similar quality kind of thing, where they're super detailed and all that kind of stuff. So you do have some advantages now for the guys who can only build shelf railroads. That gives you a little bit of help. I'm hoping that coming down the pipe soon, there's going to be a few more changes. There's nothing officially underway yet that I know of, but there are some other things being discussed now. Yes, sir. Contest room what? That part I don't know. Mike, what about contest for doing low relief buildings for the contest?
They will, if you want to submit a low relief building for the contest room, it will be submitted for evaluation. If you feel like it should meet merit score, you can. I don't know exactly how that would be scored against other buildings that are full structures, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't. But that's yet to be determined by the new contest room manager, who is going to be taking over his position September 1. In next year's national convention, there will be no evaluation of models. Then the evaluation of models will be returning in Chattanooga in the year following. Next year, they're running it much like an RPM meet, where models will just be on display. So that's the circumstances in Novi. But anyway, I can tell you right now, guys, I had a 2.5-hour working lunch with Ray the other day, and we discussed many opportunities for review of things on the AP program. This change in the AP program is the first in, as far as I know, Dwayne, you can weigh in on this, probably in the last 20 years, this is the first modification of anything of substance in the AP program. You agree with that, Dwayne?
It doesn't go back quite that far, because about 12 years ago, they made the ruling on the use of lasers, and they've since come out and made rulings on 3D printing. But in the 25 or 26 years I've been an NMRA member, this is those two and this one are the only 3 changes I know of made to the achievement program. It's been a really static process since it started in very late 1961. There have been additions over the years. A lot of the guys who have gotten it, we get a lot of complaints every time we talk about changing the rules. You're just making it easier. No. When it first came out, it was easier to get because you didn't have to get as many certificates. So those of us who have gotten it since then, life's harder. If you guys are interested at some point, I can bring up some models that were built by local model railroaders who were the model railroaders back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I have a nice collection of things that were built by guys like Cliff Robinson, Bill McClanahan, Jim Finley, John Allen. And I can bring those up and you guys can take a look at them. They're rough. They really are. The Finley stuff's probably the best of all of it, but some of that stuff it was a sign of its time. It was a piece of what was going on then, and for then they were fantastic. And these are the guys, these are the shoulders that we stand on, but if you put them up against the work that we're able to do today, it wouldn't measure up. mainly because they didn't have the access to things that we have access to now, like 3D printers and lasers and, etched brass parts and LEDs and all these wonderful new little toys that we have now. They were doing it the hard way and making most of it from scratch, including their people. So there are advantages that we have now, but unfortunately, that's also caused the bar to go up as well. So now what used to get by before doesn't cut it. I mean, it'll get you laughed out of the room if you were to put some of this stuff on a contester. So
Dwayne?
it's harder now by quite a bit. So, yes, sir.
Also, I was one of the judges. Bruce and I both were judges in the national contest room the other day. It was a light room, but then this convention is not as highly attended as previous conventions. And if you look at percentages, it's dead on. The number of models versus the number of attendees was in the right ratio. Yeah. But prior to judging seminar held by the contest room manager, there is some updated information with regard to 3D models and that were in the PowerPoint, and I will be bringing a copy of that back for the LSR to review and implement if they so choose. And how they specifically have addressed 3D modeling.
Okay.
So
Sounds
Mike,
good.
you want to take a few minutes and talk about the convention update now? Hey, Mike.
I wanted to first off tell you guys that the first 48 hours that we were here, which started the Friday before the convention started with board meeting that started at 8 a.m., went through till 5:30 with a working lunch, adjourned for an hour and a half, returned at 7 p.m. and worked until 11:30 that night at the caucus. Then the next day was the annual board meeting from 8 a.m. until 4 in the afternoon. Were the most productive hours that I have ever seen in board since I've been a part of the board and attending any board meetings. The attitude, the camaraderie, the cooperation, and in fact, the whole esprit de corps that came out of that has permeated this convention. Bruce and I were talking earlier this morning that this is probably the most family type atmosphere that we've ever seen at any convention. People who you would never have expected to saddle up to each other and agree on things are now figuratively walking arm in arm down the hallway, talking about how much they have in common rather than how much we are apart. It is a breath of fresh air. I cannot understand totally how it happened, but it's working fabulously. And I'm so excited that it is. I'm very enthused about what's happening. I will tell you that when I get back, I will be able to share more information in person. But to use the analogy that Gordy has put forth this weekend, the NMRA is not a 20-foot speedboat. It is a fleet in comparison. And when the fleet decides it wants to turn to the left, it takes a while for the fleet to make that turn. It's not like a speedboat. What I can gladly report to you is the direction of turn that was started 2 years ago is now starting to actually happen and will be laid into place within the next 4 to 8 months. There's going to be all kinds of technical upgrades and changes and abilities for the members to utilize services through the website, through the app, on your phone, and bring it all into the 22nd century on a jet engine. It's just amazing what's all coming together. all at the same time. So when I get back, I'll be able to share that with all of you. I will tell you that I presented a initiative to the board. It was unanimously adopted, whereby we're going to set up a program for divisions to be incentivized to deliver content to the members at the grassroots level. And one of those things is that the division will become recognized as an honor division. And I will tell you right now that Division 1 will be part of the founder circle of the honor division program. So congratulations on all the things that you're already doing there. And we'll give you more information on that as it comes out. But that's the cliff notes of what's going on out here. You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. Keep turning in those certificates. It's being recognized all across the NMRA, and you guys are certainly to be commended. Thanks, Dick.
Okay,
Any
thank you,
questions?
Mike. Okay, so let's move into the next portion of the meeting. How about tips and tricks? Anybody got a tip or trick? Tip or trick? Yeah.
This is really not my tip, but about 3 or 4 meetings ago, someone here demonstrated a vortex paint mixer. And it's yours, okay. And it intrigued me so much, I ordered it from Amazon during the meeting, but I only started using it, I think it was $30. I only started using it about a week ago, and that mixer is fantastic. There's no on or off switch. It's only about 4 inches square in your desktop. You just touch a sealed bottle of paint to that for 15 or 20 seconds. If your paint is separated a lot, you might need 30 or 45 seconds, but most of my paints are fairly new, and 15 seconds touch to the top of that mixer, they're ready to go. Quite often, it takes me 5 or 6 bottles of paint testing on a piece of scrap styrene to know which color I really want, and to just touch it for 15 seconds and be ready to test it. It's just a wonderful machine. Appreciate that you demonstrating that.
Okay, great.
I just did 150 bottles of paint.
Wow.
And some of it was bought in 1976.
And it worked good, Jerry? Worked good, huh?
It works wonderful.
Go ahead.
You getting your steps in?
Last month, Steve showed us an example of you want to keep your paint from tipping over, you use the PVC pipe, etc. I come from the school of no brains, no headaches. I try not to think, so I do something real simple. Rust-Oleum rattle can top, Model Master paint.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now it's not.
You're working at home.
Yeah.
Show that to me.
You can trim away the things in the middle here to make it fit a little better. It's basically a drip pen. That's right. So like I said, no brains, no headaches. Everybody's got these at home in the workshop. Everybody's got bottles of paint. That's it. Wow.
Thank you, David. Go ahead.
Is this the time I can talk about what I discussed with you about the estate thing?
No. We'll save that, okay? Hang tight. Dwayne, you have a tip or trick?
Yeah, along the lines of using the vortex shaker. If you've got your bottle standing up so that the lid's up or whatever, a lot of guys will take, especially the old flow quill, the trick was to put some shrink wrap on it, put the lid on it, and then store it upside down. Whatever you're using your vortex painter, turn the bottle the other way. So if you store it with the lid up, put the lid down onto the vortex shaker because it will help bring it all down. It'll help mix it up even quicker.
I'll even lay the bottle on its side.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's also a paint shaker that you can get that it's just a
Oh, is
little
that your-
square, about yay big. It's got a little V cradle on it, and it has a little rubber strap over it that will break pretty quickly, and you end up using a rubber band. And it looks like a miniature paint store shaker. Those things work really well too, but the little Vortex ones are really, really nice.
Okay, go ahead. Use the microphone though.
This is a little tip and trick. Right up here is a little Amazon camera, $40, has a Wi-Fi hotspot on it. I tested it here on Thursday. It goes to the entire building. And I put magnets on a flat car, and I just stick it anywhere I want on the flat car, back, sideways. I did a whole video of the whole layout on Thursday. And what you could do with this particular system, with the app, is put a Roku stick on that screen there, and just link your phone up to it, and you can broadcast whatever that locomotive sees on the big screen if you want to. And yeah, there's other things called Choo-Choo Vision, all that, but that's $115, $120, and you got to hardwire it in. It's rechargeable. You stick a little memory card in it, and whatever you stick a magnet on, there it goes. So
It'd be good for retaining your staging yards.
Yes.
as you can see, it's live recording you guys right now.
Okay, very, very good.
Thank you, Tom.
So, Don, let's talk about that later, okay? What you mentioned. Okay, so let's go into who's having problems on their layout? Question and answer period. Anything giving you a problem on your layout that you need some advice on? Anybody having any issues? No. Wrong subject or wrong.
This is not the group.
Yeah, not the group.
Yeah. Wrong group therapy session.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. Back to the microphone.
This is a very simple thing that I can't remember. When you walk in here, you're the first one in. You're the first one in the door. You walk back to the back room, you've got all the pictures that show how to turn on the switches. Everything lights up, you hear the sound of engines running in the background. Everything is great. Then I put my locomotive on the track and nothing happened. What's the step I'm missing?
Turn it on. It's gotta be turned on your handheld.
Turn it on the
On the
handheld.
handheld.
Yes. I need someone to show me how to do that the
Okay.
next
Okay.
time I'm here with my handheld throttle.
Okay.
Turn it on by handheld.
Anybody else having some issues?
That's what I tried. Right.
Good morning again, it's Chris. So I'm about to get ready to start cutting some gaps, and the Dremel tool that I did a practice cut on, it's not letting me get close enough to the rail, and so the gap is angled. And so what attachment and what size disc do I need so I can get that quick cut and not
You need to get the snake attachment for it, because that's the only thing that's gonna be small enough to let you get, parallel to the track. And if you're gonna use the Dremel to do it, you need to get the thinnest possible disc you can get. Now, if you really want to get wild with it, 86 the Dremel and do it with a jeweler saw. That will,
I have.
yeah, they do.
I have one of those, but I'm installing my track first, and then I'm gonna cut the gap.
Right,
So
yep.
how do I get that jeweler saw?
Same way you get it started on anything else, just kind of keep working on it a little bit at a time. A little bitty short strokes will get you a start. I typically start it a little more vertical and start on the foot of the rail, because it's a little bit thinner. And once I can get a start into that, I'll work my way through the webbing and through the head of it. But a jeweler saw will give you a much thinner kerf. Now, when you get your gap cut, or if you're laying track, like we're laying track now on the club modules, and a lot of guys like to use insulated track joiners. I hate those stupid things with a purple passion, because they just don't go on. I like the styrene and epoxy bit, but everybody goes, yeah, but then you got to carve it back. In your Dremel tool that came with your kit, there'll be a little brush, and it's a circle like this, black nylon bristles. Chuck that up in your Dremel after your epoxy has dried and crank that thing up as fast as it will go and lay it up against the rail, walk it into the rail, come up over the top, lay it on the rail on the other side, walk it down the other side. It will eat the styrene out of there in seconds. And what you end up with then is a perfectly rail-shaped piece of styrene that's epoxied in. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anytime you're using a cutoff wheel or anything else, truthfully, anytime you're using a tool, you put on some safety glasses. And, God bless Norm Abrams. I loved Yankee Workshop, but these safety glasses were never safety glasses. They were just his glasses. They didn't have any wings on them or anything. Get a pair of safety glasses, especially when you're using a Dremel. My late father would tell you it's not fun spending an afternoon in the emergency room having a metal splinter removed from your eyeball.
And you always need your eyesight.
Yeah, yeah, kind of hard to model when you're feeling around. Sir?
Dremel sells a set of very, very thin blades, but not the ones that come in the box with 50 other attachments. One of the blades specifically, actually they got two of them that's specifically for metal.
Yep.
Extremely thin. It's a lot stronger than the discs that come in the kits. It goes to the rail like water.
Yep. But the real trick with any cutoff wheel is they're really fragile, and especially when they're spinning at a couple of thousand RPM. And if you get them bound any at all, man, they're going to shatter, and they throw parts everywhere.
I've got a diamond wheel.
Mm-hmm.
That was a diamond brick at it.
Yeah.
It's about a 32nd of an inch thick.
Yep.
I think you have to be careful with that. It cuts so good. It cuts so deep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the diamond wheels cut really nice, but again, you're talking about a pretty wide curve. If I'm putting in the epoxy and the styrene, I like going with those because it'll eat through the rail pretty quickly. But if I've got a really tight one that I've got to work on and I actually want to leave a bit of an expansion joint, that's when I pull out the jeweler's saw. The other thing that, because I'm hand laying track too, I don't like building turnouts like you get them when you buy them at the store, where here's an end and here's an end and here's an end. I use an entire length of rail for each stock rail. I take another entire length of rail, cut it in half, and I make my frog. And that lets me point my gaps way back that way, and way up here if you've got your diverging rail. Because the problem you run into sometimes is you end up needing an insulated joint on that diverging rail, and it's now trying to come in and bend to make that alignment if you're putting together like a passing siding, for example. Now you've got mechanical stresses wanting to pull that rail out this way, and a couple of plastic joiners holding it together. I like putting my joints back here if possible. So it's hard to do if you're using Flex Track because obviously you're kind of limited to what you got when you start buying them. It is one of two places where I will kind of acquiesce and solder track joiners on. There are people that I know that are like, nope, if it's a track joint, you got to solder those connections. I'm like, no, especially if your layout is not someplace with really good HVAC control. Because if you leave no room for that rail to expand and contract, have you ever seen a sun kink on the real railroad? You'll get them on your models too.
This last week here.
Yep. Yeah, so the only thing I solder on my track is if I'm building with Flex Track and I've got something with some mechanical stresses, so diverging routes on turnouts, I'll solder those connections, and usually curves. I'll solder curves just to help give it a little more, mechanical hold. But other than that, I don't solder track connections. That's what drops are for. Sir?
Jeweler saw it didn't work for me, and I had so many switches to make anyway. So I think it's a Dremel 409 I use. It's really thin.
Yeah.
And I run it on my Dremel. It's about speed 4. Right?
Yeah, you don't have to turn it as fast as it will go. Yeah, you can't leave it on low, but yeah, about halfway, something like that, somewhere in that general vicinity will get you.
Great.
Yeah.
There was an item, and they've been in the NMRA magazine or something I hint, are the real thin blades. Take some super glue, put the thin line and absorbs into the blade.
Kind of stiffens it. Ooh, I missed that one. I'm going to have to give that a try. That might be another use for that runny super glue besides stabilizing knot holes, because I don't use it modeling.
Okay, anybody got anything else? I do got one more. Okay.
Well, he's working his way back up. He mentioned a minute ago, Dremel does make a 90-degree add-on. The only problem is you're talking about now a couple of gears in the equation, and you try running it really quick, and it doesn't go really quick. So the Snake's a little better for that kind of thing. But anyway, you had another question.
So I'm starting to install some tortoises. I haven't powered any yet, and on the fast track turnouts that I've built, and they're all curved, I've gotten the stiffer piano wire, but it just doesn't, when I move it by hand, it just doesn't look like it's moving those points close enough to that stock rail. And I've filed them, I run cars, it seems to be okay, but I don't have a high confidence that that tortoise is forcing those.
What
points
size
over.
piano wire are you using?
Do it.
I got the one from the fast track site that they recommended, the stiffer one.
Yeah. Now the fulcrum on that will actually help you with the throw. And so when you're adjusting
do I
that
move it
fulcrum
up
up and
or
down, yeah, usually down for that. But play with it and see what you get. When you're building curved turnouts, any turnouts, but especially curved ones, pre-bend the rail first.
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I do.
good, because that'll take some of the stress out of it too, and then it's not trying to fight you while you're trying to bend it, you know.
What size hole are you putting in for throw rod?
Through the bench work?
Yeah.
Oh, ½ inch. I'm giving it plenty of room. Yeah.
By the way, gents, I saw a file, Cole showed me this. There's a file out there that you can get and download in 3D print, and it fits down in after you drill the hole and you get your tortoise mounted, or before you mount the tortoise to your turnout, you've got the piano wire sticking up. You can drop this thing down into that hole, and it has a slot in it for the wire to turn, to flip through, but it covers up the rest of the hole, so you can throw some ballast in on top of that. So if you're interested, that might be something to add to your collection.
Oh, cool.
In the past, I've just glued a thin piece of paper down
Mhm.
and cut a slit in it.
Yeah, that works well too. Yeah, a little thin sheet of styrene, something like that.
Concerned about it dragging, so this time I decided I didn't for some, and it said, well.
Yeah, I had a guy called me up one time. He says, "Hey, Dwayne, how do I ballast in a turnout?" And I was like, "Okay, so what's your problem with it?" He says, "Well, I got it all ballasted in, and now it really doesn't want to throw." I was like, "Well, did you glue your points down?" He goes, "No, I can move them manually, but it's really stiff now." So I got over there and started looking at it, and he had started putting ballast down. Well, it kept falling down the hole, and it was down there. So he just kept pouring more ballast in it till it filled the whole hole up. So he had his tortoise underneath the benchwork, 3/4 of an inch a piece of plywood, 1/2 inch piece of homosote. The dude's sitting with like an inch and change full of ballast, and that wire's trying to push all that stuff out of the way to throw. And I'm like, "Have you got a vacuum handy?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." I said, "Throw it now." Like, fixed. He goes,
Another thing with the fast tracks, if you're using quiet bonds, you put the rails on. After you've installed it, I've been taking it, it's a little bit sticky. I put some acetone on the throw bar to make sure that I didn't accidentally get some quiet bond on that throw bar. And the acetone takes care of it right away.
One of the
Just
things.
work it back and forth by hand.
Yeah, I'm no expert on building fast tracks turnouts. I built them a lot without them first. But when I started building with the fast tracks, besides it noticeably faster, they had started originally, they would tell you, well, take a 1-inch sander and sand all this stuff down. Well, they've kind of gotten away from that now, but I still do it that way. But one of the things I was doing at the time was like, it's kind of rough. So I hit it with a file and kind of cleaned it up a little bit. And I'm standing there and I'm looking at it. And the piece of bench I was working at also had my bench grinder that had a buffing wheel on it. I looked at that and went, cranked the thing up, threw some rouge in it, and polished out everywhere that I had filed in. And now I've got a polished point rail coming up against a polished stock rail, and it makes the smoothest connections you've ever seen. It's far better than what you can get off of a file. So I've taken to doing them that way. It makes them a little shiny and all that, but hey, that's part of the price you pay. Okay. But yeah, it works well.
Thank you, Dwayne.
You bet.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move into show and tell. But before we get started on show and tell, a couple comments. Show and tell was originally intended to have given Myler an opportunity to show something he's very proud of. It was supposed to be just a quick blurb, a couple minutes presentation. In the last few months, it's kind of graduated to almost the length of a clinic. So I'm asked David Crumpton, we're going to put everybody on a 5-minute timer, give them 5 minutes to do their show and tell in the interest of getting as much.
So you're going to play some walk-off music?
Yeah, something like that. Well, but in the interest of getting everybody an opportunity and also to give time for the clinician to do their clinic, we want to keep it under about 5 minutes. So who's got show and tell? Well, you got one. Okay, who else? We got a couple other people too, so.
When you say your first word, the timer starts.
Oh my God, I just started. We had a last business meeting here. We had Russell give a weathering and rusting clinic. And I only brought these here to show you guys, to let you guys know, let Russell know, people who do the clinics, there are guys who pay attention and put to work what is being done. That's my only purpose for showing you these things. And this is what I came up with. I rusted using his techniques, and anybody want to pass it around? Or?
Why don't you set them up here a little?
Here, put them right here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, put them on here, and then you can just talk right here.
All right.
Here, you can use that microphone too.
Thank you. What's really crazy is these two here were just spare parts after all that repair work for the locomotives. And I just went crazy with my bin. And this is a scale trains model. And this one's a Bachmann. It was orange. I repainted it, looked brand new, silver and the UP colors. Then I weathered it. And I just used spare parts out of my box. And I put up my layout for about an hour. I thought for sure it was going to derail, but it didn't. So, so the purpose of me stepping up here, wanting attention and all that stuff, is to show that the guys who actually give the courses here, that there is somebody taking notes and paying attention. So, keep it up.
Very good.
Very good.
Jump in.
Now, you guys know I'm an narrow gauge guy and I don't do a lot of modern modeling, but I will throw one out here for you. These cars, this one not as much as others, but these covered hoppers tend to have a well all down this here. And everything that it hauls ends up being spilled because they're not being real dainty about filling those things up. Depending on what it's hauling, some of that stuff is pretty nasty. I mean, a lot of these things are chemical haulers, they're caustic stuff. That stuff up there will rust out so fast because there is no drainage up there. So any rain or whatever will, if it's hauling grain, the rain's going to wet it down. It's going to keep it damp up there for longer periods of time. So right around underneath these hatches, rust the snot out of that stuff, just for what it's worth.
Okay, who's next? Jeff?
Okay. My first show and tell ever was, if you haven't made up your mind what your favorite railroad is, but you want to run here, bring a demonstrator. And so I showed a fresh out of the box demonstrator. Now I have, if any of you have seen my emails, my email address is Baldwin Loco. So here is a fresh out of the box, beautiful Baldwin Shark demonstrator.
Put it down on the platform.
All right. That's the best way to see it. So this is where the weathering starts, and it doesn't go very far. I'll just leave that there for folks to wander by.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, Don?
I am not a painter of any size, of any level, but I have a wonderful wife. And we took these two brand new Stewart, locomotives, and in about less than an hour, she weathered these. And to me, they look great. And I'm perfectly satisfied. But I thought I would bring them, and if there's any critique that would make them a little better, I'm all for it. But anyway, so
I got one for you.
what's that?
Okay. So this is something that is really common in weathering that, I'm not going to tell you they're wrong because this is a really nice job. Sir?
Hopper's gonna roll off the.
Yeah, I'm worried about that one.
Sorry.
There we go.
We're about to use it for a demo as well. One of the things that we tend to do when we're working and weathering out a model is we'll grab it, we'll pull it out of the box, we grab all of our chalks and our weathering paints and our washes, and we just start hitting with all the grease and the grime and the dust and the rust and the mud. And you miss step number 1.
Which is?
Fade the lettering.
What's that?
Fade the lettering. First step on this one, I would have found a UP yellow, mixed it up into a very almost impossibly thin wash, and gone over all the lettering on it. Be very careful around your road numbers. Anything, yeah, there we go.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, in fact, can we lift those off there so we don't get the shine? So what we have right now is some really nice dirty locomotives, but the lettering underneath it looks brand new.
Oh.
Remember, that lettering has been out there that same amount of time. It's going to get chipped, it's going to get faded and all that kind of stuff. And we have the same problem with this car here. And like I say, I even hesitate to call it a problem because the weathering is really nicely done. But look how crisp and clean that Union Pacific looks underneath all of that. If the first thing you do is take it and mix up the wash. Now, typically I airbrush it, but you can do it with a paintbrush. But find a color that is the background color and then come back in. Do that over all the lettering first. Again, be very, very careful around the card numbers if you operate your trains. If you do get it a little too dirty, you can do the same thing the railroad did. Mask it off, put a black spot on it, re-decal it, and then now you've got a feature instead of a mistake.
What's the background color you're talking about?
The yellow.
So, I mean, if you get a paint from a, model or it says it's UP yellow, is that?
Yes.
That's significant. I mean, there's not
get
6
the-
different types of UP yellow depending
Right.
on the brand, is there?
No.
Oh,
If
okay.
you find you the UP yellow, mix it down. And when I say impossibly thin, I mean we're talking almost perfectly clear.
With what? What do you mix it with?
Thin it.
Alcohol
Well,
or
whatever the paint thinner is.
whatever the paint? Oh, well, it would probably be, water
it's
based.
time up. Yeah.
But
Yep.
water based.
Distilled water.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank
Yep.
you.
Next.
Hey, Don, let's talk about your other issue at the break.
Right now?
No, at the other, we'll talk at the break. Let you and I talk at the break.
Okay.
Okay? Russell, you got something on?
Yeah, actually, table it.
Yes, sir. Got it.
I typically do things in wood and not much in plastic, and then I've never done anything 3D modeling.
There you
Okay? I don't know how it's best to, it's kind of big, so.
Does anybody recognize that building?
We joined Texas Western, we took the Dallas section over. So one of the hardest buildings, you can't find a kit for this. And I didn't know what to do. So anyway, I was very lucky. I found a gentleman in California that does 3D modeling at a very reasonable price. And then I was blessed to have good people around me like Daryl, Mike Mackey, and Thomas to actually print this off. This building is a prototype. It's not going to be the finished building. I learned a lot about 3D modeling or printing, as that the parts don't exactly fit. It's not a Walters kit, so there's a lot of fitting you got to do. So I painted it first and tried to put it together, and it's got issues. But getting the color matched as close as I could. Trying to get the details. Daryl printed the little gargoyles you see on there, which to me is kind of the cherry on the top of it. But it just goes to show in our community of railroad modelers that everybody's got great talents. It's good to feed off each other, to help one another. I had made an unexpected connection to a guy in California. And now he's also going to be helping some other modelers here in Dallas create buildings. But it turned out pretty decent for a prototype. I think the colors are good. This up on the top on these, I don't know exactly what you call them, but they're copper roofing. shingles like match that pretty good. I think I got that close. But anyway, that's the old Big Red or Dallas Courthouse. I've also gotten going right now is the Dallas Book Depository building. And I've got it modeled and starting to get it painted. I've got a spacer building up there now, but it's just part of our community, guys. There's a lot of help out there. You just got to ask. The tips and tricks and all this stuff, that's kind of what it all leads up to. So anyway, that's my latest plastic mess right there.
Russell, thank you very much. Steve, you want to go through yours? Sure.
Okay, briefly, I took a business trip to England in June. I was only there for 2 days. I had an afternoon off before my flight, and with a friend of mine, we decided we'd visit this Pendon Museum. Tick tock, tick tock. It claims to be the birthplace of HO scale modeling. Okay, it started in 1936. They still have their layout, their original layout from 1936. Next slide, please. This is a panoramic view I stole off of their brochure because they had much better pictures than I could do walking through in 10 minutes. Next, please. So this is one of the boards that they had I photographed. And the gentleman there holding that building is Mr. Roy England. He was an immigrant from Australia. Hard to think of an immigrant from Australia in England, but just the same. And that building that he's holding right there, he made in the late 1930s. Next slide, please. They still have that building today. They have a lot of thatched roofs, as you know, in England, UK. They use hair to make the roof. I didn't ask what kind, but I can tell you it wasn't a poodle. So next, please. This is the original layout from 1936. It's still operational. The day that we were there, the gentleman who was our tour guide was kind enough to actually operate it for us. It's a little wonky, kind of goes down the track like up and down and sideways, but it's so old, it still operates. It's all handmade. All the buildings are cardboard, handmade. For the time, they look really fantastic because it captures the feeling of what it is they're trying to depict. More on that in a minute. Next. So what they have done with this railroad is it looks more like a painting than it looks like a model railroad. They are very sparing with the amount of track that they have put on the layout, and they concentrate more on the scenery and the buildings, trying to capture the look from the 1920s and the 1930s. Next. 10 seconds. Excuse me? Oh. So this is one of the detail of the bridges that they built. This is probably built about 1950s. For that time period, it is an excellent, excellent model. Next. All the signals are handmade. They illuminate and they work. There's an analog layout. Next, please. And there's your master control. Obviously done by somebody who really knows what they're doing with analog work. And of course, again, this was done in the 1980s. Next, please. Just to give you an idea that it's not a layout that is intense, a lot of track work. It's almost like an N-scale layout where they concentrate on the scenery, but it's in OO scale, not HO, OO. Next, please. And again, they really concentrate on the buildings and trying to capture the lifestyle, the feeling of what it was like to live in that part of England at that time in that period. And one of the secrets that our tour guide shared with us is that when they are deciding to place figures and houses and trees, they study landscape paintings. It gives them an idea as placement and scale and so on. Next, please. One of the very few industries they had was a brick manufacturing industry. Had no rail service, but it was extremely well detailed. And I have to apologize for the pictures because I'm walking through here. I had 45 minutes to look at it, and I'm just clicking. So they don't have the greatest depth of field, but it still kind of gives you the feeling of the layout. Next, please. Again, no trains, but you know, it's almost like you're looking at a painting. You see the guys laid back, they're taking a break. There's the horses, and all of their figures, all of their animals individually made. They make their own figures. So, you know, how are you going to find guys laying down like that? Next, please. And again, it's these little tiny parts of the layout where they have human contact or interaction with each other in these exquisitely detailed garden scenes and houses that are not in row. And it's not a flat layout. It undulates all over the place because it imitates the English landscape. Next. I don't have to say anything about that. That's pretty amazing. Next, please. And they have quite a few displays on their secrets and techniques on how they make it. All of it's done with cardboard. They said they have no plastic on the layout in terms of buildings. Next, please. This is our tour guide. If you have a chance to go there, please make the trip. It is kind of off the beaten track. It's well worth the time. I think that's it.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got a bunch of other stuff we got to do. So, Daryl, come on. Don, hold on. You had your time a minute ago.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to comment about that.
Oh, what were you going to say?
If you have a chance and you're close to Stuttgart, Germany, you can go to the Märklin office and factory there. They have a huge layout that's very similar in German, and it's unbelievable. I mean, it's very much like that, but I've got pictures, but it is very big and lots of trains and lots of detail. The Märklin people did it.
Great, you timing it? Start, go? Okay, here you go. I've been working in the Tower 55 area getting that done. Needed some signal maintainers. There's not any of these in our era that we needed made, so I found the Ford F-150 cab back in the back. This was a very cheap little Ford 150 cab. I cut the bed off of it. I found the utility bed in O scale on the internet and scaled it down to HO and printed it on my 3D printer. So then I found also duals and heavier duty tires to put on it. So I've got a signal maintainer for T&P that sets up in the Tower 55 area now. So it actually has a whip antenna on it out of 10,000th wire. One of the things that you see up in the, if you look at the overhead pictures in Tower 55, is there is a shed on the southwest quadrant of that layout of that area. And I went about trying to scale that down. Found out that the shed actually belonged to Morrison Plumbing back in 1962. And so they had a shed, a pole shed out there that they used to store goods in. I scaled it out. I went to Menard's website. It's a home improvement place. They have a place where you can put in what size you want, and they tell you what your trusses should be. So I printed that off, went to AutoCAD, drew it in AutoCAD, converted it over to 3D drawing, and then printed it on my printer. So these are actually scale trusses that would be the correct scale and size for the deal. I've got some silver decal paper that I'm going, once I paint the trusses, I'll put that on there to simulate the wood joiner plates that they put on the trusses nowadays. But anyway, this will have corrugated steel roofing on it. It will not be weathered very much because it's only about 5 or 6 years old in our era. But it's up here if you want to take a look at it. It's a little fragile at the moment.
Very well done, Daryl. Okay, anybody else for show and tell? Okay, we're going to introduce, we're reintroducing a program called Deal or Dud. And what we have is we got a local hobby shop, Model Train Crossing, has donated some gift certificates to us. And we're going to keep running this program as the gift certificates keep flowing. So we have 3 boxes here. There's a $25 gift certificate in one, a $15 gift certificate in another one, and a $10 gift certificate in the third, with a bottle of milk, with a box of Milk Duds. So, Dwayne, you want to pull a ticket out, and we'll have the whoever the winning ticket.
This one's mine over here, so I want to draw.
I got the money. I have my ticket on it.
Let's see, last 4, 6354.
6354.
6354.
Okay. All right. Okay, so pick a box. So pick one of the 1, 2, or 3.
No, it's not. My ticket was on there. I lost it, that's all.
2. Okay. So we got we got to get the box open. Okay, we got a $15 gift certificate to Model Train Crossing. There you go. Thank you, Christopher.
Good job.
Way to go.
I bet he'll come back.
I bet he will. Okay, next number.
6343.
That was sweet.
Okay. Jeff, box 1 or 3?
Sweet.
There you go.
All right.
You can't take the box.
No, I won't take the box.
Oh, we got a
Hey, I got some milk duds.
Milk Duds and a $10 gift certificate too.
Great.
That's a sweet deal.
Okay.
Final number 6333. Just 5. 6333.
Going once? Check your tickets.
Does that count?
No. For anybody else, yes, but no.
Chris, you got it?
6333.
Correct.
Pay attention. All right.
Okay. Here, Chris, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you. What is it?
It's a $25 gift certificate to Model Train Crossing.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to take a quick break. We got one quick announcement. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to move into the clinic.
Okay, if you'll look on your left over here to my left, you'll see the quilt/throw that Clarence Zink's wife made, handmade. We announced this last month at the division meeting. Handmade, the backside is actually material that they use to sew engineers' hats with. You'll recognize it. So the starting bid on that is $150. Over there on the table where Jay Waters is sitting, or Jay's holding the sign-up sheet, if you want to bid, it's a silent auction. Just write down your name, your bid, and your phone number. That way, at the end of the meeting, if you're gone, we can at least call you and let you know that you won. So if you're interested, starting bid $150, CJ Waters, wonderful handmade quilt. So that's it.
Okay, don't forget to see Jim Ogden during the break if you haven't signed up for the clinic.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity to give this clinic. Although I don't model engine terminals exclusively, they are part of my layout. And I've always enjoyed, if you look at pictures of diesel yards, to a lesser extent steam yards, but diesel engine terminal yards, there's so much greasy, oily dirt between the track, you don't see the ties. All you see is the rails. And I've always wanted to model that. And I figured out a way to do it. So that's what I'd like to show you. It starts with a piece of track, obviously. Do we have, there we go.
Let's go, let's go.
Okay. All right, it starts with a piece of track. And this is going to represent the track in the terminal yard. And you can make this as long or as short as you want. It uses air-dried clay. Now, clay comes in 3 varieties. One is the type that never dries. Think of silly putty will dry if you leave it out long enough. But clay that doesn't dry doesn't work. Then there's the clay that's kiln dried. That's what your wife does, throw in pots and put it in the oven, etc. You don't want that. You'll melt your track. All right. You can buy what's called air dry clay. I picked this up at Michael's. It comes in a brick or it comes in a tub. Now, once you pop the seal, it starts drying. Unless you've got one of those things, you know what I'm talking about. You can seal it and then suck all the air out of it. Then you put it in your freezer. That's actually not a bad thing to do with this. But I find it easiest with a tub. This was $11 and change at Michael's. Michael's always says 40 and 50% off coupons that anybody can get. All right, now this technique works for N through G or larger. When I originally did it, and I wrote about it, it was in the December 2023 Model Railroad Hobbyist. This technique would only work with HO or O for reasons I'll show you in just a minute. But since then, I figured out a way to work, it'll work with N as well, N scale as well. And that'll be coming in an upcoming issue of Model Railroad Hobbyist. I don't know when the issue is. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. Oh, where's the camera?
You can put it right here. Put it right underneath there.
Clay, air-dried clay. If you're working in N or HO, you want to start with a piece of clay roughly the size of your thumb. O scale, twice the size of your thumb. Okay? So we've got that. I'm going to take a little bit more. Okay.
Yeah, I'll put the lid on.
Remember to put your lid back on.
David, I'll put the lid on.
Okay, thanks. All right. In the first article that I wrote, I started squeezing this down with my fingers, with my hands. That's why it wouldn't work in N scale. As you'll see, you can only get it so thin when you squeeze it with your hands. Voila. I use a real heavy rolling pin that my wife has at home, the one that she chases me around the kitchen with. It's made of marble and it weighs a ton. The heavier the rolling pin, the better, but you can use anything. You can use a piece of PVC pipe. This is a caulk. And you start rolling it out as thin as you can. Now, you want to put this on a piece of wax paper. And you roll and you roll and you roll.
Would a piece of glass work?
It would. You don't have to clean wax paper. And then you just keep rolling. A rolling pin works better because it doesn't stick like this is doing to the plastic, to this tube. But you can see how thin this is. Whoops. You can see how thin this is. And getting it off is going to be...
Flour might do good on that.
Yes.
Flour.
Yes.
Non-stick cooking spray.
Yes.
Parchment. David, you might use that other sheet of wax paper in between.
That's a good idea.
You probably take some wax paper around that too.
That's a great idea.
Stick.
Aha. Great minds think alike, or work together. And you just roll this out as thin as you can. It's a great way to exercise your shoulders. You can think about your boss while you're doing this. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. Take a piece of track and pull off a number of the ties. You want an area that enough ties to keep the rails engaged, but when this is done, it's going to look like there's no ties. And now we're going to be laying it over a piece of track with ties, but for this step, we do it without ties. This is important. Turn the piece of track upside down. Put it in your rolled out clay. Now, if you look at pictures of yards or engine service terminals, etc., usually you can't see anything of the ties, either between the rails or outside the rails. That's up to you. If you just want to model, you can't see the ties between the rails, but you want outside the rails, that's up to you. We're going to do them both. So we've got, remember, turn this piece of track upside down. Put the second piece of wax paper back over and press hard, roll hard. You want to cut through the clay as best as you can. Take off the top piece of wax paper. And now what you want to do is just take up the piece of track. And you can see what you've got is indentations. If you don't cut all the way through the clay, you could just use a hobby knife, which I don't think I have. Yeah, could I borrow a knife for a sec? Thank you. Just take a hobby knife or a kitchen knife or any knife. And separate the side piece from the section between the rails. You know, it works better if I use the sharp side of the knife.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Always does.
I thought it was technique. As was suggested, put a little flour down on the wax paper, and it comes up much easier. All right. Thanks, Steve. What we've done is we now have a piece of clay that's the exact gauge of our track. It fits exactly, more or less, in between the rails. Now, if you want to cover the sides, you've got these two pieces here, which are all messed up here.
But normally, if you had a little, little flower down, et cetera, they'd come right up. And they'd fit on the side. Now, once you've put this down, you may have, I think you can see it here a little bit. Yeah, you can see the clay is a little bit in, the clay is a little bit in the gauge of the rail. Use a toothpick, or you can use a, a skewer. Clean it out of the gauge of the rail. You can use your thumb, your fingers, press it down if you want. If you want it a little thinner. You want the height of the clay to be below the top of the rail height, but you want to come as high up in the web of the rail as you can. Now, this is going to dry pretty quickly. I'm not going to wait for it to dry now, but this will dry to rock hard in just a few hours. Once it dries, actually, excuse me, before it dries, while it's still wet, take a car, an old car with the deepest flanges that you've got. If you've got something with old pizza wheels, pizza cutter wheels, use that. Roll it over the rail. See if you have any clay that's interfering with the car, the passage of the car. If there is, use the toothpick, use a skewer, clear off that excess clay. When the clay dries, I usually wait 24 hours. Do it again. Now if it's still, and the clay will shrink as it dries, but if it's still interfering with the passage, now you can't use a toothpick or a skewer because the clay's hard. Use a chisel blade on a model knife, or number 11 blade, depending on how much is there. That'll clear off any dried clay. Okay, once it's dry, now comes the fun part, and that's painting and weathering it. And even though this is wet, I'm still going to do it. Okay. We're going to use paints, and the secret ingredient is talcum powder, just like in your medicine cabinet or under your sink. The paints we're going to use are just regular black, regular craft paint black. Whoops. We're going to use metallic black. Again, this is a craft paint. You can get all of these at Michael's stores. This is a little different color than regular black. Paper towel is always a good thing to have.
Here you go.
Thank you so much. And next, we're going to use some burnt umber. And in the middle, some talcum powder. Use a fair amount of talcum powder because this is going to give it texture. If you visualize, and I apologize for not bringing a picture, but if you look at the pictures of the track in these oily, greasy diesel yards, you can feel it. It just looks thick. Okay. And the last, and this is important, and this is the only one you'd have to buy at a hobby shop or via Amazon, this is Vallejo Gunmetal Blue.
gunmetal blue. And this is going to give the paint that shiny look from the oil and the grease. Just a few drops of gunmetal blue. And I'm going to add this after I've mixed the paint in. So, let's start mixing some of the paint in with the talcum powder, and we can add more of whatever as needed as we're mixing. Mix the color well, and then add in a few drops of gunmetal blue. And you'll notice as we mix, it's going to take on a bluish hue. It's light, but it's in there. There we go. Cool. All right. And you can see, well, you really can't see here. If you look at this up front, up closer, you can see there's a bluish hue to the paint. Okay. All you do, and again, normally this would be dry, but start painting over the clay. Now it's slopping on the rail, so after you're done painting, just take a piece of cloth and rub it off the rail head. Okay? And what I'd like you to do when I'm done, and I'm almost done, please come up and take a look so you can see the bluish tint on this paint. Okay. Once the paint dries is when you would start weathering. For weathering, there's a variety of materials you can use. I like to use, this is Vallejo oiled earth wash. And I can't put it on now because the paint's wet. But Vallejo oiled earth wash. I also like to use, this is Vallejo model color, gray green. Gray green. MIG makes a phenomenal product for this. It's an oil and grease stain, what happened? Oh. Oil and grease stain mixture. I mean, that's what we want. Oil and grease stain. When everything is dried and it's done, this is what you get. Now, this track just has powders on it, no clay. This track has the dried clay on it. You can see I left some of the sides here unpainted. This track here has the weathering on it. And if you compare it with this, you can see against the paint here is wet, obviously, but you can see, come on. You can see the difference. Well, this isn't going to work. You can see the difference between the non-weathered and the weathered. So this is a very easy technique to do. Using a paper plate cleanup is throw it away. Just wash your brushes. And experiment. Do what I do. Put a piece of track on a piece of wood or something, just sort of a base. I mean, this is on a piece of foam. This one's on a piece of foam. Remember to take a piece of track and remove some of the rails, some of the ties. So all you've got is rails. Turn it upside down in the clay. Press hard. If you press hard, it'll cut straight through the clay. Paint, or let the clay dry. Remember to get the dried clay or wet clay out of the rail web. Make sure a car can pass over. It shouldn't be a problem. Check again after the clay is dried. Paint, let the paint dry, and then weather. That's it. It's easy to do. Any questions? Yes.
You can get black air dry clay at, I got some in Hobby Lobby.
Yes, you can. I've tried with that. The problem is it's black. You could put various paints over it, but you can't mix because the clay's already black. It's going to come out looking too black. You won't get that dirty, bluish, oil when it floats on water. It's got that blue sheen. You're not going to have that with black clay.
Does the paint get mixed into the clay?
That's a good question. I've never tried that. Honestly, the clay is not a slurry, which is normally where you'd mix in paint, like if you're doing plaster of Paris, because it's kind of the consistency of cottage cheese or a thick shake. You wait for the clay to dry, and then you'd paint. I mean, it'd be nice if you could, because then as you chip the paint away, you wouldn't have to repaint, because now you've got white clay sticking out. But it's not hard. If it's too high enough, chip it away after it's dry. Just take a very fine paintbrush, maybe a single zero or a double zero. And remember, if you slop a little paint on the rail, no big deal. Just clean it off before it dries. Again, the secret is, for the texture, it's the baby powder. That gives it that thick, oily weight to it, the viscosity. The gunmetal blue gives it the oily sheen that you want. And the weathering washes, and particularly the MIG oil and grease stain mixture, really helps bring it to life. Particularly if you don't just slop it on the whole thing, dot, like there was an oil spill. The only thing you might want to do at the end, after it's dry, and you do this anywhere on a diesel track, a little bit of sand, where the engine drops sand as it was leaving, for traction, little piles of sand on the side. That's entirely up to you. That's a technique. It's easy to do. I encourage you to experiment, even if you don't decide to do it, to see how it looks. Yes?
If you use the powder on the wax paper as the release agent, when you fuel the clay up, you said use flour, but then you got...
Yeah, you could. Because my wife's rolling pin is marble, it's cold, so the clay doesn't stick to it. Doing Dick's idea, put the clay between two pieces of wax paper, that took care of it. If you don't have a marble rolling pin, if you just have a wooden rolling pin, trust me, it'll stick to a wooden rolling pin. Put the clay between the two pieces of wax paper. And that'll take care of it. A parchment paper might work as well. Yeah. In fact, it probably would be less likely to stick to parchment paper than wax paper. So you could experiment, see what works best. I mean, that's a big tub of clay. This will work on anything, on a huge layout. So whatever
practice. You got plenty of clay. But practice before it goes dry. What I suggest doing with this, or with whether you use a brick or this, and this, by the way, is the smallest container it comes in. Put it in a Ziploc bag and squeeze the air out, and then put it in a drawer somewhere. Don't put it in the fridge. Put it in a drawer. It's still eventually going to dry. Yes, in the back.
You can slow it down a little bit by putting glad wrap across or just a lid on.
That's a good idea.
Same thing we do with paint.
The other thing you could do is get they come in medicine vials, those desiccant packets that absorbs moisture. If you put this in a Ziploc bag, saran wrap over it, put the lid on, then throw a couple of desiccant packs, which you can get at the drugstore, in the Ziploc bag. That will help slow down any moisture as well. Yes?
That is water-based, right?
Water-based? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. It's clay.
Same ones might be able to add a little bit of chemical or whatever to produce your reuse it.
Now you're making it too complex.
Any other
This cost $11. when it gets hard, buy another one. Any other
questions for David?
Yes.
You could use that for road crossing too.
Yes, you could.
Yeah.
Yes, you could. Don't just limit it to this. I mean, an alternative to this, and I tried it, I just use styrene. Obviously, you can cut styrene or whatever you want. It fits right in there. It might not be exactly the right width, but you can get it close enough and paint over it. Styrene doesn't look like dried clay. Dried clay, by its nature, is going to have slight undulations. If you look at pictures of what's in the yards, the engine service terminals, yeah, it's flat, but you can see the undulations as the grease and oil and dirt has accumulated over the years. Styrene's going to be flat. And now, I mean, it might pass the 10-foot rule, but generally our yards aren't way back, they're up close. And I just think this looks a lot more realistic than styrene in here and painted over. That's just my opinion. Obviously, your mileage might vary. Any other questions? You all have my email address. It's in the list, so feel free to email me with questions or call. My number's on the D1 list as well. I'll be glad to answer your questions.
And don't forget the clinic will be on the website in a couple days, so you'll be able to refer to that on the website too. So David, thank you very much. Good
You're
clinic.
welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so that wraps up the August meeting, and don't forget, next meeting's September 14th. Looking forward to seeing you all then.
October meeting is on the 5th.
October meeting's on the 5th.
Don't forget to help us put up the chairs if you don't mind. And don't